Welcome back for our third video in this series. In our previous two, we argued Amraphel of Genesis 14 is the Babylonian king Hammurabi, and that the Battle of the Nine Kings happened before Hammurabi's 28th year, not in year 39 as Dr. Falk argues. Christopher Eames proposes that Terru of Urkesh, a contemporary of Hammurabi, was Abraham's father. Dr. Falk adopts and promotes the theory of this writer who is an early Exodus dater. Eames also adopts a high chronology. Dr. Falk is adamantly against both high chronology and early Exodus date. Obviously, this doesn't automatically mean that Terah of Urkesh theory is wrong. You can find the links below. I was persuaded Amraphel is Hammurabi thanks to Dr. Falk, and I added a plausible explanation for the theophoric element in Amraphel's name. See my videos. The idea of identifying Abraham's father in extra-biblical sources sounds very exciting. It's plausible that a contemporary of Hammurabi that has a similar name to Abraham's father might be Terah himself. But there are chronological problems in the path of this theory. Also, let's not forget many people had the same name back then, just like it happens today. Let me break down for you the chronological problems. The Battle of the Nine Kings can happen only after a series of events in Abraham's life presented in Genesis. Terah, his father, dies in Haran. He is the proposed Terru of Urkesh. After Terah dies, Abraham moves to Canaan, initially in the area of Shechem. A famine comes, so he moves somewhere in the northern Egypt for a while, where he almost loses his wife Sarah to save his life. Asiatics, that's how Egyptians call them, went back and forth from the Levant to Egypt around Hammurabi's time, but the Hyksos didn't come to power until almost a century later. A painting from Nomarch Numhotep II's grave shows us Semites traveling to Egypt during the Middle Kingdom. After Egypt, Abraham returns to Canaan and lives not far from Jerusalem in the area of Bethel. After quarrels and fights between their shepherds, Lot moves to Sodom and Abraham to Hebron. Only after all these events, Lot gets captured in Sodom during the Battle of Genesis 14. Genesis says about 11 years passed between the moment Abraham left Haran and when he had Ishmael, and 24 years to the destruction of Sodom. The Mari Royal Archive that mentions Terah of Urkesh, you may find it written as Urgis or Urgish, presents correspondence between Terru and Zimri-Lim, king of Mari. Mari was conquered in Hammurabi's 31st year. Remember, in our previous video, I argued that an Elamite and Babylonian coalition that went to Canaan to fight along each other would be possible only by Hammurabi's 28th year, the year his battles with the Elamites started. He defeated them in his 30th year, and the Elamites withdrew afterwards from Mesopotamia. Genesis 14 tells us the Elamite-led coalition went to Canaan to punish some of the Canaanite cities for stopping to pay tribute after 12 years. In the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, Elam came to punish them. These 14 years have to fall before Hammurabi defeat the Elamites, or to happen at least partially even before his reign. Once Hammurabi defeated the Elamites, their army's access to Canaan became close to impossible. Zimri-Lim started ruling Mari in Hammurabi's 18th year. If Terah of Urkesh is Abraham's father, then it's between Hammurabi's 18th and 28th year when the following need to happen. Terah corresponds with Zimri-Lim. Terah dies, Abraham moves to Canaan, goes to Egypt, returns to Canaan, splits from Lot, and finally the military campaign of Genesis 14 happens, no later than Hammurabi's 27th year. All these events in Terah's and Abraham's life need to happen in about 10 years. But the nail in Eames' theory, supported by Dr. Falk, is the date Assyriologists ascribe to the communication between Terah of Urkesh and Zimri-Lim. Here's a quote from one of the heavy voices in the field, Daniel Fleming. Quote, "There is some possibility of political change, so that Urgish had a king only during the last few years of Zimri-Lim's reign. Our letters from the king named Terru all come from the ZL 1112 when Shadum-Labua was king of nearby Asnakum." End of quote. Here's what this means. The communication between Terah and Zimri-Lim, the king of Mari, took place during the latter's 12th and 13th year. This is based on the synchronisms in the Mari text. Assyriologists figure out Zimri-Lim reigned for 13 years and 3 months, the first year being noted as ZL0. Therefore, ZL11 is year 12 and so on up to his 14th year. Zimri-Lim's year 13 is around Hammurabi's 30th year. This means if we identify Terah of Urkesh with the biblical Terah, that around Hammurabi's 30th year, Abraham's father was still alive and acting while Abraham hadn't moved to Canaan, hadn't experienced famine, hadn't moved to Egypt, hadn't returned to Canaan, nor split from Lot so his nephew could move to Sodom. Only after all these events, the War of the Nine Kings happens when Hammurabi goes on to a military campaign to Canaan, being part of a coalition led by the Elamites. While Terru of Urkesh and Zimri-Lim exchanged letters, Hammurabi and the Elamites were fighting each other. We also know Zimri-Lim provided aid to Hammurabi around his 11th year. That's around the time Hammurabi started fighting the Elamites. Just to be clear, the Elamites and Hammurabi weren't on a friendly campaign fighting others, but fighting each other. These arguments make it impossible for Terah of Urkesh to be Hammurabi's father. So, what is my conclusion? Hammurabi is Amraphel of Genesis 14, but the events of this chapter happened before Hammurabi's 28th year. See my previous video on this. In middle chronology years, Genesis 14 happened somewhere in the interval 1792 to 7065 BC, his first 27 years. Terah of Urkesh can't be Abraham's father, the biblical Terah, because he was still alive and active around Hammurabi's 30th year. Terah, father of Abraham, had to die before Hammurabi came to the throne or early in his reign, so Abraham could do all the sequence of events presented in Genesis 11 through 14. Sure, it would have been nice to identify him in extra biblical texts, but let's not rush to conclusions before analyzing the facts thoroughly. The facts are in Hammurabi's and Zimri-Lim's lives, information that is mostly based on the archives of the time found at Mari and Katara. There are similarities between Terah of Urkesh and Terah, but those are merely circumstantial. Chronology always beats similarities because it's mostly objective, while similarities could be very well subjective. I can't agree with Christopher Eames and David Falk about Terah of Urkesh being Abraham's father. In fact, I am convinced he is not the biblical Terah. What are your thoughts on the topic? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoy this series enough to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you.